How do you think about the difference between being like a manager where you're, directly managing the people who are doing the work to being, I think of it as like a leader, VP, where you're a manager of managers, right? And like, how do you think
Yeah.
about that distinction and kind of your leadership style between those two worlds?
Yeah. So I think for me, like one of the biggest things that I always push for my leaders, and this came with time from switching from being just a manager, or not just a manager, but a manager to, a director to vice president is delegation, honestly. I'll always remember this conversation, and I mentioned this before in a few other stories that I've told before, is that I had this mentor and I came to my one-on-one with him one day and I said, I don't have bandwidth to do X. And I said, I don't feel like I'm being strategic enough in the business. I'm in the weeds so much. And then he asked me, he said, well, rattle off, like, what are some of the things that you're doing? And I said, I'm doing this, this, and this. And then he goes to me, he's like, well, can't Meiji do that? And I said, well, Meiji's bandwidth is also, she has like a full book of business, and he's like, did you ever ask Meiji that? And I was like, you know what? I didn't ask her that. And then he's like, one of the biggest takeaways of transitioning from being a manager into like vice president into that executive role is delegation is opportunity. And he's like, there's two ways to look at it, right? Like one, if you're not delegating, then you're not giving yourself the opportunity to step up and make better decisions to help move the team forward, right? The other is that individual that you're not giving them new opportunities because you don't think they have the bandwidth, you're holding opportunity from them. Maybe something that you wanted to delegate to them is something that they are passionate about or would find a new love for. And they're like, you're doing them an injustice by essentially holding back all these things. And so when that conversation took place, that kind of like really switched gears for me. Whereas like delegation is opportunity. It is not delegating because it's work. It's for you to own something else. And that was like a big switch for me where I was like, great. Now, if I feel more confident in delegating out, then I have the opportunity to hopefully look at the business more holistically to make bigger adjustments that are going to help move the team forward.
And as you're delegating all this work, like how do you think about accountability, right? Because that gets harder as the organization grows. And are you managing purely by metrics or how do you sort of hold people accountable?
Yeah, definitely. I think managing people kind of comes in like two different ones, and it's based on what is the role, how long has that person been in their working career, and it's activities versus outcomes. For my leadership team, they are equipped with the skill set and enough freedom and that autonomy component to get to an outcome. So if we say, hey, the mission is X net revenue retention, Meiji is going to be the one that is strategizing with her team and herself to come up with the activities that are going to take place. Whereas for maybe a more junior role, like maybe for like a sales role, it's activity based, right? How many activities are you going to do to get to your outcome versus you trying to figure out what those activities are, right? So I think based on the role, it's a little bit different. And we've always had ways to measure the team's outputs in there. But again, some of it is how many activities are you doing versus what is the actual, did you hit your lagging goal of being successful?